No, so if you are watching on Facebook Live, we're back. Again, we're doing a couple of things at once, thus the phone to my ear and the empty seat next to me. Again, Chris Buchanani hopefully will be joining us in short order. Still working to get some things ironed out. Apologies. We had a little change in some of the technical setup here at Quaker Steak Lube and threw us for a bit of a loop here at the start of the program. All right, I'm being told we're good to go here, and again, our apologies, technical difficulties on our end. I think we have everything straightened out here and are good to go now, both on Facebook Live and on Sports Radio 98.7 The Fox here in the State College area. Chris Buchanani will be joining me shortly. And again, we're getting ready for Penn State-Michigan on Saturday. I was in an earlier attempt to start the program. I was talking about the Penn State I guess perception and reality of not getting over the hump. But there's a couple of scenarios here I just want to play out because, again, in the moment, this feels like everything. But I'm going to argue that while this is a very big game and it's a very important game, and it's important for Penn State, for its fan base, for the recruits, for James Franklin and all of that, I'm going to sit here and tell you that a win is not a cure-all and not all previous, and I'm going to use air quotes here, football sins will be forgiven. And a loss here doesn't mean that Penn State is forever destined to be in that second tier, if you will, of college football with no chance to ever get into the upper echelon. So it is a big GAME game, but number one, let's start there. As you look around at everything that is happening in the planet, on the planet right now, and in the world, yes, man, this is big. This is important for the kids. It's important for the fans. You want this. And listen, the reality is the economy of Center County, of the State College area, is very much dependent on the success of the football program. So I don't want to, make this sound like it is just a game, even though, again, on some level it is. But a couple of things. Penn State can win this game and still not get to the college football playoffs. Ohio State could turn around and beat Michigan, and Ohio State gets in, and Penn State, despite getting over the hump, and again, use the air quotes, and getting to the 11-1 mark, still not in the Big Ten championship game, still not in the college football playoffs, and possibly looking at another big win in a big bowl game. But, yeah, still never being a participant in the college football playoffs, and some feeling of disappointment for sure at the opportunity lost in Columbus. So that's number one. Is it a win while in the moment? And even big picture, yep, it is big. It is important, but doesn't guarantee anything in terms of what I think many are looking at as, hey, Penn State, to get over the hump, has to get into the college football playoffs, and ideally in the 4-team format. Obviously, this is the last opportunity to do that, and or get back to the Big Ten championship game. A win Saturday does not assure either of those by any stretch. The other part of it is, okay, Penn State goes out and loses this game, and I'm with everybody that at the start of the season, hey, man, 11-1, you got to get at least a split in that Ohio State-Michigan series. I'm with you. But let's play out a scenario here for a moment. And in the moment, it is going to be a devastating loss. The narrative that is, I think, correctly out there. I mean, it's not, it's not just a narrative. It is that Penn State consistently has been on the doorstep of, breaking through, being a college football playoff team, being a team that is, the team to beat in the Big Ten, but never quite actually there. Now, Ohio State has been the bigger stumbling block, but Michigan certainly with a win again on Saturday, is nipping on the heels of Ohio State as being that chief nemesis for the Nittany Lions to, again, get into the elite of college football. But Penn State loses that game. Let's just say Penn State loses to Michigan on Saturday, turns around, beats Rutgers, takes care of business against Michigan State, and does indeed again win a New Year's Six bowl game against a good, name opponent. And then next season goes out and runs the table against a gauntlet of a schedule and wins the national title. Well, the narrative then that is unquestionably, and again, I think rightfully going to be there after the loss to Michigan Saturday is wiped away. Now, we can get into the likelihood or unlikelihood of that scenario. My point is, we're always prisoners of the moment. That is the nature of sports fans.
That's me, Ironhead. I am a prisoner of this moment.
I am a prisoner of the moment as well. But again, just to go back, and I know people don't necessarily like taking a big picture view of things or looking at other schools. And, there's similarities and differences, and I get that, and we'll get into that too. But prior to the 2022 season, right, Michigan fans were saying the exact same thing, and the narrative was the same for Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. Harbaugh's a really good coach, but man, he can't beat Ohio State. Michigan's never going to, win a national title. I'm not going to win a Big Ten title, let alone a national title. And now, all of a sudden, 2 seasons later, Michigan is perceived as the program to beat in the Big Ten. And it feels like scandals notwithstanding, they have things rolling in a big way. So that the narrative can change, and it can change pretty quickly. So, yes, again, it is a big, big game. But at the end of the day, I don't think a loss forever condemns James Franklin to the ash heap of history as an also-ran in college football. He still has, I don't know how many years left, but a bunch of years left, and we'll see how all of that plays out. And again, a win Saturday, while in the moment is going to feel like everything, guarantees zilch in terms of Penn State being in the college football playoffs, being in the Big Ten championship game, or truly taking another step. I don't think when we talk about taking another step, I don't think going from 10-2 to 11-1 is the step that most fans had in mind, or most national analysts had in mind. It is the step of getting into the college football playoffs. And even if they're in the playoffs next year with the 12-team format, it is going to be getting to that Final Four, being one of the Final Four standing that will feel like truly that next step. Penn State could get to the playoffs next year, win a game, and I think still rightfully largely have the perception of, that's who we thought they were. That's where we thought they were. They're not the elite. They're not one of the top 4 or 5 programs in the country, but they're definitively in that next group. So all of that being said, time to find out what Chris Buchanani thinks as we head in to the game, take 2 for the Nittany Lions in 2023.
Coming in hot, Ironhead. Well, I was listening to you on the way in over from getting you live here on the airwaves.
Sorry about that. We had some unanticipated snafus getting started with some technical issues. Folks, so that is my apologies.
Live broadcasting industry. You are perpetually working without a safety net.
That is a fact.
I've told my audience in the past. Okay. So I listened to everything you had to say, Ironhead, and I am not just disagreeing to make good content, but I do disagree on a point that you just kind of wrapped up, that if Penn State wins this game on Saturday, which for the record, I do not think they are going to, but let's say I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Penn State gets this win. I understand we are going to be scoreboard watching in the Big Ten West, and when the game is played in a couple of weeks in Ann Arbor, and our fate is not our own to determine, right? Which was the case the last time Penn State won the Big Ten under James Franklin. So I am not going to view that, presuming that Penn State takes care of its own business and beats the 2 inferior teams remaining on its schedule. I am not, even if things don't break our way and we don't get to play in the Big Ten championship game and we don't get to go to the playoffs, I am going to view that as progress. And while I think the majority of fans may be disappointed to miss the postseason, I think they will too. I can't speak for the national punditry, but for the people who matter most, those closest to the football program, I think it does represent genuine progress, because a point I have made over the years is that I get a little, I don't even want to say irritated, but it does rub me the wrong way a little bit, especially the way Sandy Barber, and James does it too, would point to the number of 11 win seasons that he has had here without acknowledging the elephant in the room, which is that through most of college football history, the regular season has been 10 or 11 games.
Right.
So an 11-win season used to mean more than it does now. We have never, not once, in the now going on 10 years of James Franklin's tenure, had a 1-loss regular season.
Yep.
Not once. And despite not getting that win in Columbus a couple of weeks ago, if we can pull ourselves back up off the mat, get one of these big game wins, which have eluded him outside the 2016 Ohio State game and a few bowl games, which, again, I'm going to put in a separate category. We're talking about the regular season when it matters most. If we can do that and we can have a 1-loss regular season and go, and again, this is assuming things don't go our way and we end up in a New Year's Six bowl and we'll be playing another really good 1-loss team. It'll be Oregon or Alabama or Washington or somebody like that, a team that's been a consensus top team in the country down the stretch in college football, and we can win that game. So we can be 12-1 with this team. I'll be a little let down. We didn't get a shot in the 4-team playoff era, but I'm going to be feeling great about what's to come. And I'll feel just like I did last year when we got through our whole schedule without stubbing our toe against the team that we should beat. I'll feel like that is a sign of progress. It gives me hope for the future. Whereas if we end up 10-2 in the same kind of New Year's Six bowl scenario, I think everybody's going to feel like we're still stuck in purgatory spinning our wheels. So I do think there's a heck of a lot on the line Saturday, even if we don't get the playoff spot out of it.
Yeah, I don't know, because to me, the playoffs is what this is about. That is the objective. Just as you know, and I get to a certain degree, it's never truly in your control, right? Like it depends on what others are viewing and determining it is worthy. And obviously with the loss to Ohio State, that it's interesting.
Entirely possible that Florida State ends up the only team that gets through its entire regular season without a loss, and will have by far by that point played the softest schedule of any of the teams in the top 10.
Correct. By the end of the season.
Again, like if you can just put yourself in position and you can get that win that feels like has always been out of reach for James Franklin, the big win post 2016 Ohio State game, and put yourself in a position and whatever, things don't shake out your way. I still think we were talking a couple weeks ago about is 10-2 a failure. And I was saying, yeah, it kind of is. You get to 11-1 with this kind of a win. I have a tough time being too disappointed in that.
Yeah, I think, it depends, I think, on how you look at it, because to me, but if it plays out that way, and I hear what you're saying, although, part of this is going to be how we define big game, because Penn State has other wins over Michigan. Now, not a Michigan that was ranked in the top 5. I get it. But Penn State does have other wins over top 10 teams, not Michigan. I get it.
Not many.
So, not many, but they do have them. So, it's not like when you say he hasn't won big games, actually, yeah, he has.
Name two, and don't give me the 2016 or 2019 Michigan games when we won at home as a favorite. Name two regular season wins.
Well, the bowl game last year is a good one. Well, but you can't. those games count. The bowl games
no,
count.
I get that they do. Listen, I'm not trying to diminish beating the top 10 Utah team at all. That was a great win that springboarded us into this season. It burnishes James Franklin's resume. Maybe it comes across like I'm bagging on the guy, and I really don't want to. I mean, he's already won half of the New Year's Six Bowls in less than 10 years at the helm, having taken over in the tail end of the sanction era. So I don't want to take away from what he's done well, but I think it's a fair criticism to say that in these inflection points, more often than not, we haven't pulled the upset that if you're trying to climb the ladder, you just got to do. We've got one under our belts. We need to get another one.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all, and I think it is absolutely a fair criticism of James Franklin.
And you get one or two of those, then you stop ending up as a 6-point dog at home.
Yeah,
right.
Well, probably. I mean, again, it's going to depend on the year. It depends on a bunch of different factors. But yes, I get your general point. That being said, again, if in the moment, I'm with you, and yes, to this point, then it still remains a valid criticism if Penn State loses Saturday, no matter how close, no matter what the circumstances, that, yep, James Franklin, to this point, has still not gotten over the hump. This program, just cannot, again, get that next step in. My only point is, yes, so in the moment, that is everything. It's devastating, all of it in this season. Again, I would probably spend too much time on the semantics of failure, disappointment, whatever. It's not where you wanted to be at the end of the year, 10-2 again. All I'm saying is, the story doesn't stop with Saturday's game, either way. And if next season, and it's a big if, I always do the capital IF, but if next season Penn State goes out and does have a one-loss season, gets into the playoffs, and wins the national title, all of this stuff is forgotten. It's still part of the record. People will still remember it. But if you do that, it doesn't matter when you climb the mountaintop. It matters that you climb the mountaintop.
Correct.
And that's my only point is, yes, up till now, the criticism is valid. I mean, it's the record is what it is. And this would be another disappointment in the long list of them. All I'm saying is that it doesn't stop there. It's not like, okay, well then that is it. Penn State now never gets there. You go back through, I mean, there is a long history of teams, coaches, programs at every level that it's like, oh man, they're good, but they're not great. And then all of a sudden, and sometimes it's after a couple of years, the coach gets the big breakthrough win. Sometimes it's after a decade. Sometimes it's a couple of decades, and it becomes a great story. It's my point is that there's not a timeline here in reality on James Franklin. Now, at some point there actually is, but it's not now. James Franklin, when we talk about the pressure with this game, it is not the pressure that James Franklin needs to win this game to save his job, right? Nobody anywhere thinks anything close to that. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's pressure. That's must-win situations.
Yeah.
That's not where James Franklin is at, and this program is in good enough shape as you look ahead to next year, and I'm not really doing that, but I am for a moment for the hypothetical of this. Right. Listen, you're going to have an experienced Drew Aller now at quarterback. You're going to have two great running backs. You're going to have a couple of great tight ends, a young one coming up. You're going to have some good young receivers. You're going to have a more experienced defense in some spots, and I think the secondary is going to be fine for quite a while here with the talent that they are bringing up. And I get that then we're back to, okay, I'm going to believe it when I see it, and that's fine, and that's fair. But I'm just saying, if you see it then, again, whether it's next year or even the following year, if Penn State, and capital I, capital F, if Penn State does get to the crowning achievement, not just a Big Ten title, but wins a national title. Again, all of this stuff, still part of the record, still fair game, man, a lot of missed opportunities along the way. But at the end of the day, you have a national championship coach, a national championship team, and all is forgiven, I think, immediately by the fan base. Now, I get there's certainly no guarantees that happens, and your level of optimism or confidence that can happen or will happen, we shall see.
Because so much of the success in college football is kind of vibes dependent, because you need good vibes to kick your recruiting up a notch. You need good vibes to kick your NIL and your fundraising up a notch. I do think there's a lot on the line, playoff spot notwithstanding on Saturday, just to say you got that win. And listen, no, I don't want to say no one, but very few people are giving Penn State much of a shot in this game. Vegas certainly isn't.
Yep.
The national press is talking about us like we are a joke. I mean, to the point where I have heard national pundits suggest that Michigan ought not even be able to count Penn State as a quality win if they beat us. And again, this is stupid college football poll logic. It's like Michigan can't count Penn State as a quality win, but Ohio State basically is number one in the country by virtue of counting it as a quality win.
And
so,
Notre Dame, which turned around and lost to a Clemson team that is
right. So look, it is, that's whatever. But if people listen to that, boosters and donors listen to it, recruits listen to it. It would be really great for the psyche of the fan base and the vibes around the program to get that W and just have the excitement in the next few weeks of scoreboard watching. And by the way, the other thing is, I do think I will feel really good about our playoff and or Big Ten title chances if we can beat Michigan on Saturday, because there is still a lot of football left to play. And Ironhead, we came within a hair's breadth of already being on the lip of the playoff cup as a second Big Ten team, even if we wouldn't make the championship game as an 11-1 team last week. Because if Texas A&M and Kansas State, the Wildcats, if one or both of those teams can get their act together on one play in a goal-to-go situation, you are looking at basically a cakewalk for an 11-1 non-conference champion Big Ten team to get in as a second Big Ten rep. And so, I mean, a lot of crazy stuff can still happen between now and Selection Day. No doubt.
And again, all of this aside, this is a big game. However,
can I just say how much I hate Kansas State? By the way, guys, come on.
Yeah,
K-State. I mean, Texas A&M. Those guys are buffoons. I didn't expect too much from Jimbo, but K-State, right there, brutal.
Yeah, it was tough. The Deer Horse checks in. Sometimes guys break through. Here's hoping it happens Saturday. If we win, we'll be happy for. Be happier for any sporting event since the 2013 National League wildcard game at PNC Park. He also says we have been upper mid-carders like Jake the Snake and Junkyard Dog in the 1980s WWF. We beat everybody but the top guys. Fair enough. Again,
if you're going to be mid-card 1980s WWF, like, you could do a lot worse. You could do a lot worse than those two guys.
For sure. And again, I do think some things are set up here well for Penn State. I also, think there are some things to be genuinely concerned about if you're Penn State going into this game. And, let's start there. There's a couple of things. One is I am a big believer in confidence being a giant component of sports. There's a lot of things that obviously play into whether teams win or lose, but there is such a difference between believing that you are going to win the game and thinking that you can win the game. And I truly do think, coming off of that Maryland game, that Penn State goes into this thing, the guys in that locker room, I think, believe that this is their time, that they have learned the lessons from Ohio State, from the Michigan game last year, from what they were able to do and the way they played, in particular offensively. I think there was a change in mindset is what I think I saw out at Maryland. And I think genuinely in that locker room, I don't think it's that they're going in there saying, oh man, if we play really well, we could keep this and maybe somehow pull it out. I genuinely think the guys that are going out there wearing the blue and white Saturday are like, hey, this is our game. We're going to go take it. We're going to go win it. Now, I also think a Michigan team comes in here brimming with confidence, and I think they have embraced, rightfully so. I mean, I think that's the way to approach this. If you're Michigan, it's us against the world. Everybody hates us. We'll show you. So I do think both of these teams go in with a bit of a chip on their shoulder and with some earned confidence. I mean, I think Penn State played its best overall game of the season last week. And again, I think there was a little change in mentality, and in particular with Drew Aller. I think Drew Aller is a different quarterback right now, certainly than the one we saw in Columbus. Now, he happens to be playing arguably as good a quarterback as there is right now in college football. J.J. McCarthy is playing at a very high level, and he has the confidence of knowing he has a tremendous run game at his disposal, a tremendous defense on the other side of the ball. So it's not just that he's confident in what he's doing. He's like, hey, I can have an off day. I can make some mistakes. These guys, they got my back. But I think Aller is right there now, too. He knows he has an elite defense, a really high-caliber defense that can make plays at any time of the game in a bunch of different ways. And I think he now has the confidence of two receivers, meaning that Aller believes that, yeah, if I put it out there, I think Keandre Lambert-Smith can go make a play for me. And I now know Dante Cephas can go make some big-time plays for me. I think he knows he has two big-time tight ends. I think he knows, you know, we can get into Nicholas Singleton a little bit, but he knows he has two outstanding running backs. And for me, where the question still is, as it seems to always be, is can Penn State match up on the interior of their offensive line against Michigan's defensive line? And yes, as good as Penn State's defense has been, can Penn State's interior defensive line over 4 quarters hold up against an offensive line that loves to beat the tar out of opposing defenses and wear them down?
Yeah, to tackle the defense point first, no pun intended, I do think that the strength of Penn State's linebacking core this year really does help offset that. And, you know, again, if we are picking a time of the year for Abdul Carter to get hot and play his best football, this is it. I think going back to Drew's evolution in the line of scrimmage on the other side of the football, I really think Ohio State has a really good defense, and yes, they were getting pressure. I think Drew had a little bit more time to throw than maybe he was perceived as having by a lot of people, because I think he himself was so unsettled and so lacking confidence in his decision-making. A lot of times he could have just stepped up into the pocket, or he could have made a quicker decision or a quicker throw, and it wouldn't have looked as bad as it seemed, right? And throughout the first, 6-7 games of the season, I think a fair criticism of Aller, who did a lot of things well, including protecting the football, was that he sometimes waited until a guy got open to release the ball instead of throwing to a point confident that the receiver was going to be there to make the play.
Yep.
And you saw him do that last week.
No doubt.
So if we're going to see some continuation of that, I think he clearly has the capacity. He has all the tools. He can throw with accuracy. He can make every throw you need your quarterback to make. The offensive line doesn't have to give him forever and a day to stand back there if he can just step up with confidence and have confidence in his receivers and just do what he's capable of doing. And again, just like Abdul Carter, if we're going to wait to see that from one of your star players at any point in the season, I sure as heck would like it to be before one of the biggest games in the last decade for the program. So yeah. I mean, that's, if you're a Penn State fan and you're looking for reasons for hope, there's 2 of them right there.
I'll tell you what, we'll take a quick break here. There's a couple of other components I think that should give Penn State fans reason for optimism going into Saturday's matchup, and we'll touch on those when we come back. Again, we are at Quaker Steak and Lube. It is a wonderful place to be on these wonderful fall sports weekends as Penn State gets ready to take on the Michigan Wolverines in that noon kickoff on Saturday at Beaver Stadium. Quaker Steak and Lube, if you don't have a ticket to the game, you want to come on down and enjoy the atmosphere here, that's cool. If you're looking to come on down and watch some college football afterward, that's cool. Sunday, of course, they have all of the NFL games. And really, any night, you can come on down, watch some college hoops, college hockey, NHL action, NBA, all of it, while you enjoy some great food, great beverages, and great service here at Quaker Steak and Lube. Our thanks also to Lion Country Kia and Sioka Motors, both great places to get your next vehicle. It is the Goon and Ironhead show. We are goonless. The Deer Booch is filling in on this Thursday as we get ready for Penn State and Michigan.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
Since retiring, I have spent my time searching the countryside for the hottest wings in America. I always seem to end up disappointed. You call these hot? Back off, Luigi.
Mamma mia.
Your hands it, busboy. Your wings suck! I knew I should have stuck with Quaker Steak's triple atomic wings. You think I'm tough enough?
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
Sioka Toyota of Williamsport invites you to stop in today or check us out online. We have the smart path to your next Toyota, like the all-new Crown, BZ4X, the all-new Grand Highlander, Corolla Cross Hybrids, Sequoias, and more. Over 100 new Toyotas here and on the way. Don't make a $1,000 mistake. Choose Sioka Toyota of Williamsport and see the Sioka dealership's difference. Buy or reserve yours today and see for yourself why Sioka Toyota is the only stop you need for your next new car. Sioka Toyota, it just feels right.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen O'Habaker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen O'Habaker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen O'Habaker.
The Goon and Ironhead.
With more of the Goon and Ironhead show here at Quaker Steak and Lube. Again, the dear Chris Buchanani Booch filling in for the dear Goon today.
Happy birthday to the Goon.
Enjoying for Penn State. But you can also get a lot of those so-called hidden yards with the return game and with your coverage units, which, by the way, have also been very good throughout the course of this season. So,
that's a really good point about how the return game can make a difference in field position. And again, boy, it is not the worst thing in the world to have Daquan Hardy established as a threat from the punt return game, and for Nick Singleton to have a breakout kick return in that game last week, right? Like that could be a big difference maker.
No doubt.
To give the offense a shorter field once or twice on Saturday.
Yeah, and Nicholas Singleton is I do want to focus for a moment here on Singleton, because obviously, I think I've been talking all week about Penn State. It just felt like, checked all the boxes in terms of what you wanted against Maryland, in terms of getting this team feeling like it was ready and in as good a place as you could be going into the Michigan game. The lone exception that I can think of is Nicholas Singleton just not having that home run again, and not having statistically a great game. Now, the kickoff return, again, I don't think is insignificant, and I do think that he can beat you not just with the running game, but if he can get a 50-yard kickoff return against Michigan, that could be obviously huge in terms of giving Penn State a chance to win.
That could be huge.
Yeah. But
depending on where he fields it.
Yeah, but Singleton, what's your take, Booch? Because I don't have a feel for really why it is that he's not through. And we talked about it's a pattern now with Penn State in these big games. Again, we're 3/4 of the way through the season, and we're not seeing the home run hits here from Singleton, and I don't have an answer. It feels like he's been close on a few runs over the course of the season. It's like, oh man, one step there, one step there. It feels like a couple times, but not. I don't think this is a pattern. It does feel like there's been a couple of times, but I'm literally saying a couple of times where, man, just take what was there instead of trying to. He got a little cute, but I don't think that's been a consistent issue at all for him. And I just don't have an answer. I think Katron Allen obviously has been the more effective back. Yeah. And I would have said going into this game, regardless of what happened against Maryland, I just think Katron Allen is the guy you want to get more carries. This just feels like a game where, again, grinding out those 2 or 3 yards here and there is going to be big in the right spots. Yeah. And it feels like Allen can do that. That being said, I want Nicholas Singleton on the field. It's not that I want this to be the Katron Allen show. I think Nicholas Singleton brings a very valuable element to that offense. But, Penn State has tried some swing passes. They've tried pitching. I would like, obviously everybody would like to get him in space. I'm just not exactly sure how you go about doing that. I think part of it is you just keep working them and keep trying to make some subtle changes with the blocking schemes or getting things timed up. But I don't have an answer. We've been talking about it all week, and people have asked me on and off shows, what's up, and I'm like, I don't know. I really don't.
I also am at a loss. He is, I think, one of the only players on this team who has really surprised me, positively or negatively. Like every once in a while I see on Twitter, somebody asks the question, who has been the surprise player for you so far this season? And I've had a difficult time picking out any guy because most guys have more or less played to the level that I expected. There were one or two who have been a touch disappointing, right? And so Singleton is that guy. For sure. The guy who I am most surprised by, because I thought for sure, by now we would have seen him uncork a few of those big runs like we saw so many times last season. So I haven't looked at it closely enough to even say this is my theory. I will give you two that I have heard. My buddy has been convinced all off season and has been beating this drum through 10 weeks of the regular season that he just made some subtle changes to his body in the offseason that are working against him. Now, if you look at the way they're reporting his weight, really not too much of a change from last year, but we did hear a little bit about how, he was working with the strength and conditioning staff, as every one of these guys does, to add a little more muscle to his frame. And my buddy, Mike Levine, has just been over and over again. He said that's going to slow him down. He's just going to be a touch slower with his foot speed. He's going to be a little more sluggish, and that's going to be the difference between a 3-yard run and a 30-yard run. And there have been, I have to say, many, many plays over the course of this season where it has looked like all he needed to do was just get his feet up a little bit faster, a little bit higher, and he was in the clear. And then guys were going to be chasing him, and instead it's a shoe-top tackle. So I've heard that. Again, I'm not saying that's what I think. I haven't spent enough time going back and scrutinizing it. The other thing is, listen, I'm wearing my Flyers jersey for the folks who are watching online today. I was waiting for the bubble to burst, Ironhead, and I think it maybe burst last night. But I think back to the Stanley Cup run the Flyers made at the beginning of the century with rookie goaltender Brian Boucher stepping in and playing out of his mind, just completely on instinct. And during the offseason, between Philly being one game away from the Stanley Cup Finals and tip-off of the next season, management and coaching in the Flyers organization looked at this and they're like, we have got a gem. This guy, this is our franchise goalie for the next decade. He played so well with that out-of-control, instinctive Dominic Hasek style. Think about how good he's going to be when we spend the whole offseason coaching him up. And they ruined him. Ruined the guy. He'll now be remembered as a better broadcaster than he was NHL goaltender, despite playing many years in the league. The other theory I have heard is that last year, Nick was playing on instinct, and this year he's just been a little overcoached, or is focusing too much on what he's been coached to do and not just reacting on instinct. It is interesting. We talk about reading the tea leaves of James's press conferences. He has even said, without naming Nick Singleton specifically, as a coach, when you've got a great running back, sometimes you worry about them focusing too much on their coaching and too little on just what they can naturally do better than most human beings on the earth. Maybe there's a little something to that too. I do believe, one thing I believe about college football is that for many great players, the sophomore slump is real. And maybe he's just in the sophomore slump. I know that sounds like a lazy take, but I think there are a number of factors that combine to make that real for a lot of great players.
Yeah. Sometimes it comes a little too easily that first year, and then defenses obviously are making adjustments and seeing what they're seeing on film.
And sometimes you try to refine what doesn't need to be refined, and you fix what isn't broken.
That's a fair point as well. You are listening to the Goon and Ironhead show on the radio. We are on WFXS, Pleasant Gap State College, and of course on Facebook Live, coming to you from Quaker Steak and Lube on this Thursday afternoon ahead of Penn State-Michigan. A couple of other things, and then we'll get back to Penn State-Michigan talk. Just happened to be home last night and was flipping through the channels and stumbled across the Republican debate. And I'm like, nope. Hey, that's right. Penn State soccer is playing tonight. And ended up watching the end of that game, and then ultimately the Penn State win in the penalty kicks. Penn State into the Big Ten title game against Indiana on Sunday. And by the way, the Nittany Lions beat the Buckeyes. Always worth noting.
Always a little more enjoyable.
No matter what the sport, no doubt about it. So congratulations to the Penn State men's soccer team, and a great victory. Although, victory over Ohio State, no great shakes. And yes, that's a play on the goaltender's name for the beloved Nittany Lions. Also, we have a couple of Center County teams that will be in action tomorrow night in high school football. Bald Eagle area is in the District 6 AA semifinals tomorrow night at home. And then State College will take on Hollidaysburg in the District 6 6A championship game at Hollidaysburg. So both of those games are tomorrow night.
Ironhead, may I indulge in just a moment of
Absolutely.
shameless self-promotion? Since you brought up Bald Eagle Area High School,
Yes.
I just want to congratulate the girls of the SC Lions cheer team that had their competition at BEA High School on Sunday.
Yeah.
The senior team and the flag team, I believe. Yeah, senior and flag, I think. Sorry if I got the other one wrong. My daughter's on the senior team, so I keep that straight the most. They took home the first place in their category, and the senior team for SC Lions took home the grand championship of the trophy, or of the competition.
Phenomenal.
So great, like super, super cool for my daughter who is in her last year and all the fellow seniors on her squad who'll be graduating up to the middle school team next year. I told her afterwards, I said, very, very few folks get to do what you girls just did, which is walk off the field for the final time a champion. I am not afraid to tell you that they got their brains beaten in by Belfont last year, and everyone involved was pretty embarrassed by the showing. And so they resolved this offseason that they were going to work their butts off and come back and win the whole thing, and they did. So congratulations, SC Lions. You girls did a great job.
Sounds like a certain football team. They got their brains bashed in last year and resolved. I'm just saying. I mean, a little extra inspiration.
Let me throw this out at you then, if you're loving the good vibes.
I am.
I brought this up on the podcast. Okay, so Penn State goes on the road to face one of the top powers in the Big Ten and gets its butt absolutely beaten. Then comes home to face an, at best, middling Big Ten opponent, struggles through 4 quarters. At halftime, people are furious, want James Franklin fired, and they need a huge play from one of their offensive superstars at the very end to win it and move on without taking an embarrassing L.
Yep.
The next week, they blow the doors off the Maryland Terrapins, and then the following week, they welcome in one of the best teams in college football, a divisional opponent, to a huge game at Beaver Stadium that will have program-changing implications if they can somehow find a way to win, even though they are big-time underdogs. Did I just describe the last 4 weeks of Penn State's football season?
Yeah, clearly.
Or a 4-week sequence of the 2016 season that led up to a big upset win in Beaver Stadium and a Big Ten championship.
Who's going to return that blocked field goal on Saturday? That's what I want to know.
I mean, whatever we need, man.
Absolutely.
Whatever it takes.
And real quickly, the Steelers have the Packers at home on Sunday.
Potentially a Sean Clifford sighting had Jordan Love not played last week, but he did.
Yeah, so. a big time opportunity here though for the Steelers to really start to see some momentum. They have the Packers this week and then the Browns. And listen, I'm not taking anything for granted with the Steelers of the NFL this season, but. Man, what an opportunity here for the Steelers. If they can get these next 2 games under their belt, they put themselves in prime position despite, again, offensive woes like very few, like no contenders the NFL have had to this point.
And Cleveland hanging around, so big to get that tiebreaker. Of
that game is going to be. I mean, the Steelers need to get this win over the Packers and take care of business at home there. And then, yes, that game with Cleveland, to me, is an opportunity to kind of definitively get yourself into the mix with the Ravens and the Bengals and, not be the team that's, trying to work its way up here against those two. So
what a wacky season when the Green Bay Packers look to be an easier out than the Cleveland Browns.
How about it? Yeah. Right. And by a pretty substantial margin right now, I would argue. So, yeah, let's turning back to Penn State-Michigan here on Saturday, Booch. The other bit of good news, trying to throw out as much positive vibes and mojo. But listen, Chop Robinson obviously is a difference maker on the defense. I think it was really encouraging that Penn State's defense played the way it did last week against Maryland without Chop Robinson. But it sure looks and sounds like he's going to be back on the field and in the mix here on Saturday. And I think it's big for a couple of reasons. Obviously, I mean, his talent and his leadership, that for sure. But I think it gives Penn State that more natural rotation now and gives them the depth that you're looking for against that against the offensive line of Michigan. And I do think that's a big deal. There's a bunch of keys. At the end of the day, I really think it comes down to up front. Can Penn State, they don't need to dominate. They don't even need to win the battle, but they need to hold their own. And it can't be holding your own for 3 quarters and then letting Michigan control. It has to be you hold your own for 4 quarters of football on Saturday. And I think obviously Chop Robinson being there gives them a better opportunity to do that. One of the things with fascination on Saturday is what does Manny Diaz come up with schematically defensively? Again, Michigan can beat you a lot of different ways. This is a really good balanced offense. J.J. McCarthy is playing at a really high level, but Michigan has not seen anything close to Penn State's defense to this point in the season. I mean, nothing.
That is an excellent
close.
point.
And
the best
Manny
defense
Diaz
they've played so far is probably Rutgers. And Rutgers has, I mean, all credit to Greg Schiano. He's doing the best he can with what he's got. They have been getting progressively better week to week. So the Rutgers team that we saw give Ohio State all they could handle last week, that was not the same team that Michigan beat up on.
That is true. That's a very good point. And, Rutgers, well, they're just doing the promo. I was just going to say, has a big one here against Iowa. I am curious to see that game. I was a little surprised, or did I already use this joke, that the over-under on that is -2 for the Rutgers-Iowa game. And the money seems to be coming in on the under there. My gosh, 4-2. Anybody? Rutgers over
we hope not. We're big.
No, you're definitely rooting for the Hawkeyes. Yep, and big Northwestern faces Wisconsin. I think Saturday. I think that's going to be a tall order. But if you're a Penn State fan, you're rooting Northwestern. Yeah, I mean Wisconsin. Well, both. Yeah, who knows? I mean,
you're really only
Wisconsin just lost to Indiana. Northwestern's so who knows? I mean, but you're rooting for Northwestern. You're definitely rooting for Iowa to take care of Rutgers. And I'm forgetting who Illinois plays. Do they have Indiana this week?
I believe that's right.
Yeah. So although Indiana's coming off. So anyways, those are the teams you're rooting for, along with your Nittany Lions if you're a Penn State fan here on Saturday. But I'm really excited. I really am to see what Manny Diaz does and what his approach is. And listen, I'm not saying that Penn State's going to put 3 defensive ends in there and for 4 quarters, hey, let's just beat him with speed. But I do think you're going to see some spots, some situations where it's like, yep, we're just going to go 1 D tackle, and we understand Michigan's going to try to bully us, and we're going to shoot the gaps, and we're going to believe that our quickness with both of the linemen, the defensive ends, and the linebackers can get there. I think you're going to see some creative. I think fans a lot of times when we talk blitzes, it's like, oh yeah, get the quarterback. I'm talking about run blitzes and the way this secondary tackles, and I'm really curious to see just what all Penn State comes up with schematically on both sides of the ball. But that Manny Diaz defense, I just think will have some things that J.J. McCarthy, as well as he has played this season, and as good as that offensive line for Michigan is, I think there will be some things here that they just have not seen and will not be prepared for. Now, Michigan may be good enough that it's like, yep, you threw everything you had at them, and they still got a couple of drives, were able to slow your offense down, and they win the game. And I think if that happens, you live with it. The one thing I really, really hope, what would be devastating to me, is not a loss to Michigan. I mean, I'll be disappointed, obviously, but if they come off the field, and the thing that most disappointed me about the Ohio State game was James Franklin saying after the game, yeah, we left some things. I'm paraphrasing here, but it was like, yeah, we had a package.
It was never a good time.
But we never. It's like, well, and worried about locker room chemistry and all that. Go win the game. Figure out the chemistry afterward, and time to drink, as Goon would say, because I'm going to bring up wrestling. But what Cale Sanderson will tell his kids is, go out and go for it. We'll take the losses if you are going for it and you're wrestling and trying the moves that we've been working on in practice.
Yeah,
you go out and somebody catches you, fine. But don't lose 2-1 and come off the mat saying, oh, man, I wish I had pulled that single leg or that nifty maneuver. Man, I wish I had tried that. Don't wish. Go try it. Go do it. Go fire the ball down the middle of the field if you're Drew Aller on first down and take a shot. Try a little misdirection. Get Bo Prabula out there with Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton, all three in the backfield, and fake a pitch one way, hand it off the other way, drop back and pass after a double. Try different stuff. Again, maybe Michigan's defense is good enough. It doesn't matter what you try. They're going to beat you. But don't walk off that field and say, yeah, man, we had these plays that we thought would work. Just never felt like the right time. Find the right time. Try whatever you have in the arsenal that you think is going to work going into the game. Don't walk off that field with bullets in the in the holster. Fire off what you have and live with the consequences. I would much rather go down with, man, did you see those the aggressive mentality that they came out with, and maybe they got a little over aggressive in that spot. I would much rather that than, oh my gosh.
Can I tell you one bullet?
Never got the opportunity.
Can I tell you one bullet I would love to have them just see, not just leaving the bandolier strap, just leave it at home, leave it on the ammo bench.
Yeah, actually. Go ahead.
I agree with everything you just said with one caveat.
Yeah.
What I wish is that I hope I can get through an entire 4 quarters of Penn State football without seeing Keandre Lambert-Smith, who is our number 1 receiver and a great player and a nice kid, attempt a single pass.
I am with you.
Like, you know what?
100%.
You can leave that bullet in the chamber.
I am with you 100%.
We've seen that bullet plenty of times, and it doesn't find the mark.
It's a blank. Yep, it's a blank. We can put that one aside. It doesn't work.
And I don't think we're going to, only because we've run it so many times. I think there is absolutely no way you are going to catch them sleeping on that one.
I also wholeheartedly agree with that.
But to your point about McCarthy and the pass rush and complementary football secondary complementing the defensive line, I think the 2 keys to the game on Saturday for Penn State are, number 1, you talked about how much you think confidence is a big factor in winning and losing.
Yep.
I think this is a game where psychology plays a huge role. And so I think Penn State needs to be close going in the locker room at halftime, be within a score, and neither team has allowed an opponent to score any points in the third quarter.
It's crazy.
If Penn State can do that and Penn State can score the first points of the third quarter, great sign. And I just think one of the other stats we will look at when it is all said and done, no matter what the outcome is, how does Michigan's conversion rate on 3rd and medium and 3rd and long look?
Yep.
You cannot let them extend drives. If you are letting J.J. McCarthy hit 75% of his passes, as he has been all season, it'll be a long afternoon. And unless you have a bunch of crazy stuff happen, like a blocked field goal and a couple of turnovers, you're not winning the game. So you've got to get Michigan, even if they're quote unquote on schedule, even if they're in like 3rd and 5 situations, you got to get them off the field a couple of times. But especially if you get them into 3rd and long, you cannot let them convert.
Well, and I agree with you. And conversely, I think kind of the same thing, obviously the opposite way for the Penn State offense. Listen, what I love to see Penn State come out and put together 6 80-yard, 75-yard scoring drives. Yep, that'd be fantastic. But you know what I'm okay with is an offense that picks up 2 or 3 first downs consistently, and then on a drive or 2 finishes it off. But if you can get out to midfield, that neighborhood, consistently on Saturday, right? That is huge. If
the defense
that
played
field
so
position
well
battle
against Ohio State, and they were up against it all day because
all
they
day.
couldn't move the needle on field position.
Yeah, and again, it's just it's not scoring drives every drive. I mean, yes, have that as the goal and all that, but get a couple of first downs on every drive, and you're going to put yourself in really, really good position to go ahead and win this football game.
Yeah.
I also think, it's going to be interesting, Booch, because I think if Penn State, to your point, if they can not just get to halftime, but if they can get to the fourth quarter close, within a touchdown, either way, it'll be interesting to see how both sidelines react. I think Penn State is juiced. Yeah, Penn State gets juiced, right? I mean, I don't think there's any doubt, even if they're down 7. If you're down 7 going to the fourth quarter, that stadium is going to be rocking.
Is in it. Yes,
and
sir.
it's like, okay, here we go. We're going to find a way to win.
Yep.
Michigan, I'm not sitting there saying Michigan, oh my gosh, we're in a close game, but they haven't been there. This year's team has not been there, and now you're in a tough stadium against a really good defense, needing more points. I think you're thinking to finish this thing off. How does that play out against a defense? It gives you a lot of different looks that can, I think, disguise some things. And, if you can create a little uncertainty there for J.J. McCarthy, it's like, am I seeing ghosts? And, based on what happens through the first 3 quarters, it'll just be interesting. Again, I'm not sitting here telling you Michigan won't be able to win a close game in the fourth, but they just haven't. Much like Penn State hadn't been in that type of a game until it faced Ohio State.
The longer that game stays close, the more the arrogance and confidence that is evident on the Michigan roster and is the hallmark of the Michigan man, as a matter of fact,
no doubt,
becomes a liability. The more it starts to work against you. And Penn State had a very similar effect going on against Indiana a couple of weeks ago and was very fortunate to have some timid play calling by Tom Allen and the home field advantage.
Yeah.
Michigan, I hope will not have the advantage of timid play calling by Penn State, and definitely will not have the crowd working in their favor.
Yeah.
And so, just the longer you can go. You know what I was thinking about with that this week, Ironhead? I think I might have told you this before, but Joe Batista always used to say that he thought it was a misnomer that the 2-goal lead is the most dangerous lead in hockey. He said it's actually a 3-goal lead because of how quickly momentum shifts. He said if you are up 3 goals and you let 1 in, you don't care because you're still only up 2.
Right.
And so when you let the second goal in, the other team thinks they're invincible and you all of a sudden fold and you're panicking. And I think, again, if you can get it within 1 score in the fourth quarter, a similar dynamic starts to come in. I think Michigan, to hear them talk and certainly hear the national press and their local folks talk, they're already thinking about Ohio State. They think this one's in the bag. They are not taking Penn State seriously at all. And if they are in a dogfight, because they're coming into this and this is like, classic James Franklin, like, of course, this one's in the bag. If they've got 110,000 people bearing down on them, and all of a sudden the emotional toll of all the distractions of the last couple of weeks, and they have not been there at all this season. They've been beaten up on the Bowling Greens and the UNLVs of the world. If all of that starts bearing down on them, are they suddenly like a hockey team that was up 3 goals and cruising, and suddenly they're in a 1-goal game, and it feels like the house is on fire around them? That gives a big psychological edge to Penn State. So important to keep this one close.
Yeah, and I like Penn State's chances of doing that, if for no other reason than, again, this defense has done it consistently all season, even against Ohio State, where they were getting no help from the offense, and Penn State still had a chance. I mean, we can argue about how much of a chance, but I mean, the fact is they were, a score down there,
correct,
in the fourth quarter, and that defense, I think, gives them a chance. And listen, we'll find out Saturday. I'm trying not to get carried away. I get that it was Maryland, but I do think, and it's not the same Maryland team that played the first half against Ohio State either. Again, when you play teams does matter, and this, it feels like Maryland has just been completely derailed. I'm really doubtful. I think one of the most intriguing games, not one of the most significant games, but one of the most intriguing games Saturday to me, maybe the most intriguing game outside of Penn State, Michigan in the Big Ten Saturday is that Maryland at Nebraska game.
Yeah.
And we talk about the psychology
Terps,
and the psyche here.
We're big Maryland fans.
Yeah, but it'll be
not
interesting.
A good position to be in, by the way.
No, not at all. And I obviously am rooting for Matt Rule overall, the state high product. But yes, for Penn State to
Matt,
get
listen, you
where
already
it
lost
wants
to
to
Michigan
be.
State. Do us a solid. Just take one more L. No one's going to remember in a couple of years.
Yep. Get it rolling next year. I'm with you all the way. But that game is interesting just from the psyche of both of those teams right now, and how they how either or both teams show up on Saturday. But I think I really do believe that this Penn State offense has just figured some things out. And I think what they figured out is much more just the mentality, the winning mentality than anything else. I think it's much more that than the X's and O's.
Yeah.
I think the X's and O's play into it, but I think it's much more, hey, you know what? Let's just go play football. We have a bunch of really good players. Let's just go play, have fun, let them do what they do. And again, maybe it won't be good enough against Michigan. This is a really good Michigan defense, but maybe it will be. I throw it up there. Let Dante Cephas go try to make a play for you. See if Keandre Lambert-Smith can haul one in down the sideline. Let these tight ends make some big plays for you down the middle of the field. And again, maybe Michigan gets over there, makes a hit, pops the ball up, and they get the ball. Okay, I'd much rather that than 3rd and 10 and we got another 3 yards on the release valve pass to the running back. Play, go for it, have some fun. Put the pressure on Michigan. Let Michigan bear the brunt of the pressure that is clearly there. I mean, if I will say, if Penn State loses this game, and maybe this is not the right way to look at it, but I think it's the truth. If Penn State loses this game, everybody outside of the Penn State locker room says, yep, that's Penn State. That's what we expected. And if Michigan wins this game, it's like, well, yeah, Michigan's got the better team. That's what we expected. Yep. It's life as usual. If Penn State wins this game, yes, there will be, at least in the moment, praise for James Franklin and Penn State. But, oh, man. It's going to be an avalanche coming down on Jim Harbaugh.
Michigan.
Yes, given the other things that are going on. And I will say, I do think this is a position that Penn State relishes. I think James Franklin relishes being the underdog, being kind of the forgotten team. And they know. I mean, they know the talent they have on this team. They know that they are capable of being there with anybody in the country if they play well. And again, I think we saw the change that was needed. Wish it had happened a couple weeks earlier against Columbus, because I think if they had the same mentality against Maryland, I'm not saying they would beat Ohio State the way they beat Maryland, but I think they do win that game in Columbus. I think that was the change that I thought we would see going into the Ohio State game. Maybe for some it'll be too little too late. I say, hey, as long as you recognize the change that you need to make and you make it, I'll give you credit. Now, again, we'll see how it plays out on Saturday, but going into the game, that's what it feels like to me, is that Penn State has turned the corner. Now, again, Michigan's really good. You can turn the corner, play a really good game, and still lose. Yeah. Michigan is a good enough team to beat anybody in the country, and I mean anybody on any given Saturday. So, all of the things that I'm talking about could bear out, and Penn State could still come up short. I'm not sure that Michigan isn't the best team in the country this year. When you talk about player for player, position by position, group by group, and the experience, the confidence, and you're throwing that all together. Again, to me, Michigan is at least right there in the conversation as being the best team in the country this year. But Do I think Penn State at home, playing with the mentality that it had against Maryland and with Chop Robinson coming back on defense, I think if nothing else, there's an emotional lift there for the defense, just that, we have an All-American caliber guy back in the lineup.
Sure.
I think it's fun, and I'm hoping, and I think that is the approach Penn State is going to take to this game is, hey, unlike Ohio State, I think Penn State was feeling the pressure of that game.
They played
and I think
tight.
across the board. Well, and I just go back to Aller, and, I'm not pinning that loss on Aller, but the mechanics that Aller displayed in that game were atrocious. Again, throwing off the back foot, not following through on just the he all season long he was good on the dink and dunk, and again I thought they relied too much on that, but he was good at it. I mean, he delivered it, and he didn't in that Ohio State game, and he was just kind of like throwing darts instead of stepping into it and trying to deliver the football. It was just such an atypical game from Drew Aller, and for whatever the reasons. But I think that loss, and maybe going back and looking at the tape and then comparing it with the other games where he had some success, and even against Iowa, which also obviously has a very good defense, it just feels like Aller now has Aller and the offensive coaches, Mike Yurcich and company, have figured some things out that, I have a big time arm. I know how to throw. Let me just step up and deliver. Again, against Michigan, maybe you take a couple of sacks. Maybe you have to throw the ball away on a couple of plays, but also take a chance. Step up in the pocket, fire it down the field, go let Keandre Lambert-Smith or Dante Cephas or somebody else, either of the tight ends or, again, maybe it's Malik McLean, somebody, go make a play and see if you can't, get a play that kind of changes the entire complexion of this season. We'll take a break here and be back with more of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. It's Booch filling in for the Dear Goon on this Thursday ahead of Penn State-Michigan, and we're back in Miracle.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorrento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
Since retiring, I have spent my time searching the countryside for the hottest wings in America. I always seem to end up disappointed. You call these hot? Back off, Luigi.
Mamma mia.
Your hands it, busboy. Your wings suck! I knew I should have stuck with Quaker Steak's triple atomic wings. You think I'm tough enough?
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
Sioka Toyota of Williamsport invites you to stop in today or check us out online. We have the smart path to your next Toyota, like the all-new Crown, BZ4X, the all-new Grand Highlander, Corolla Cross Hybrids, Sequoias, and more. Over 100 new Toyotas here and on the way. Don't make a $1,000 mistake. Choose Sioka Toyota of Williamsport and see the Sioka dealership's difference. Buy or reserve yours today and see for yourself why Sioka Toyota is the only stop you need for your next new car. Sioka Toyota, it just feels right.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen Baker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen Baker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen Baker.
The Goon and Ironhead.
Ironhead. We love the Booch and Ironhead, and we love some Penn State football. Big game weeks are just a little different, and you can feel the energy in the town. I will say, I think there's apprehension. I think there's a lot of confidence going into the Ohio State game. I think this one, Booch, is a more of a we could. I really thought going into Ohio State, it just felt, anyways, to me that Nittany Nation was like, "No, we're winning this one in Columbus this year." Like a complete buffoon,
I was very confident.
Yeah.
I mean, a total idiot. And I think, in a way, I typify the attitude of most Penn Staters, and that might be a good thing.
Yeah,
there is something to be said for having your back up against the wall and nothing to lose. This team has. Penn State, I'm talking about, has no pressure on it whatsoever because, again, we've already been completely written off. I mean, they are talking about this game like if Penn State wins, it'll be up there. It'll be like when App State beat Michigan. I mean, it's like Villanova, Georgetown. Like, forget about it. And on the other hand, it almost feels like because we didn't win that Ohio State game, even though Ohio State is currently the #1 team in the playoff rankings, it was just totally written off. I mean, I think it is possible now that the hype for that game was so overblown that we've now overcorrected to the other side.
Yeah.
Like I just saw during the commercial break, I was looking at my phone and I saw that the public money is pouring in on Michigan. If Penn State wins, the only people who are going to be feeling better than those of us who are blue and white boosters, Ironhead, are going to be out in the desert in Nevada because the public is heavily invested on Michigan, probably because they've been watching the same national press that I have.
Yeah.
Who to listen? This might be like Michigan so far. They've been Michigan State and Rutgers and UNLV and the Bowling Green. To listen to the talking heads on ESPN, this might be, I don't know, like their 6th or 7th toughest game that they've played so far this season. So, someone has the potential to make a lot of scratch if the Nittany Lions can pull this one out. And I'm not just talking about James Franklin, once again, getting his agent to pay off some reporter to suggest that USC wants to hire him when Lincoln Riley goes to the NFL. But that's going to happen also if we win this game.
Yeah, I suspect you are correct there as well. I will say, I mean, Penn State, with that 2-week exception of Ohio State and Indiana, I mean, Penn State does cover very consistently. And really has done so the last couple of years. Penn State is very good against the spread as well. So, I don't know. It is one of those games, Booch, that when I play it out in my mind, like I can see it going a bunch of different ways. Like I really can see Penn State coming out on point, getting Michigan rattled, creating, if you get an early turnover and Aller gets in rhythm. I mean, I think Penn State, I mean, I don't think they're going to crush Michigan. I don't see that scenario. But I mean, I think I could see Penn State winning, 10 points, 14 points at the end of the day. I certainly can see a scenario where Michigan just gets it rolling, gets the running game going, and takes complete control and does win it big.
I can envision that quite easily.
I think most likely, though, I do think both these defenses are really good. And while I think both offenses now are legitimate threats, and certainly Michigan's is, but I really do think Penn State now, with the way it played against Maryland and just, again, what I think is the necessary change in mentality to give yourself a chance to go out and win these big games. I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be a defensive-oriented game, but I'm not expecting a defensive-dominated game, even though both these defenses certainly have that capability. I mean, I don't think this is going to be a 10-7 Iowa Northwestern game. I think the winning team is in the 20s, and I think it's likely that the losing team is right in that neighborhood as well. I really think this will be a really close, hard-fought game. And I keep going back and forth on even what I think the keys. Field position and turnovers, yes, they always factor in these types of games. Obviously, the line of scrimmage and who wins those battles. But I keep going back and forth a little bit. I think that the team that runs the ball most effectively, that ends the game with the most rushing yards, is in better position to win. But I don't know that I guarantee, even if Michigan outgains Penn State by 50 on the ground or vice versa, I don't know that I'm like, well, if that happens, no way the other team wins, right? Because both these teams have quarterbacks who are capable of delivering in a big way. So I think I'm kind of at the point now where I just want to see the game. I almost don't want to. I mean, we get paid to kind of have fun and surmise and speculate about what's going to happen, but I'll raise my hand and I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I don't know even the style of game that this is going to be. I don't know if I think Michigan comes out saying, listen, we ran the ball down their throat last year. We can do it again this year. Let's just run the ball, establish our dominance at the line, and take control. I can see that. I can also see Michigan saying, man, we know Penn State wants to stop the run. So J.J. McCarthy is going to light them up. Play action, boom, boom.
I actually expect it to go more in that direction because that is what has been the difference for their offense this year.
For sure.
To that point, just like our guys have been repeatedly fixating on that 418 number, they know that we've been fixating on it, and that's potentially something they could take advantage of early in the game, and they feel like they've got the quarterback and the passing game to do it. So, that I actually expect that more than we're going to keep doing it until you prove you can stop it. There will be a time for that in the game, but early on, I think Michigan looks to pass it a little bit more than maybe I've heard a lot of people predicting or expecting that they will.
And I think it's interesting when you flip it. Do you try to get Drew Aller, a big play or two early, or just try to get him in a rhythm and try to, hit some of the slants that we saw against Ohio State early, and then, take your shots and try to loosen up the Michigan defense for your running game? Or do you come out and say, listen, this is a brand new Penn State football team. We're going to show you on first down. And again, it doesn't have to be plowing up the middle, but we're going to run the ball. We're going to, find the schemes and the combination of our running backs. We'll get enough of the tough yards to get ourselves into third and short. And, this time around convert and beat you that way. I mean, I do think this is a game that is fascinating on so many levels. Obviously, there's the overriding storylines of James Franklin not winning the big games, of Michigan and the signal stealing scandal. But I think, you have the rising star at quarterback for Penn State. You have the quarterback who has finally arrived for Michigan. You have Michigan trying to break through and win a national title. You have Penn State trying to break through and get back to a Big Ten championship game and the playoffs. And I think you have a couple of coaching staffs that want to make their mark too with this game, right? I mean, I think that the chess match, if you will, is also just a fascinating component. How does Mike Yurcich approach this? What does Penn State try to do offensively against this fine Michigan defense? And what does Manny Diaz draw up? And what are the different schemes that Penn State uses against what has been a really good and really balanced Michigan offense this year? I think all of that is just going to make for an entertaining Saturday afternoon of football. I do think this ends up being a really close game. I think, going into the final minutes, the score will be within a one touchdown reach for either team. And I think whichever team makes the plays down the stretch wins it. And which team that'll be, flip a coin right now.
Boy, isn't losing a close game the absolute worst scenario for James in terms of where the fan base is going to be? Because if people feel like we had this one and we let it slip away, I mean, we're blessed, Ironhead, to be in a position where a lot of what we do for a living is talk about Penn State football.
Yep.
So I never want to complain about it, but I'm going to anyway. The amount of urinating and moaning I am going to be forced to entertain with a smile on my face and probably engage in a little bit myself.
Oh, yes.
If that is the outcome, like I would rather get blown out, truly. It would be miserable to sit there during a blowout. But again, we've already, at least as for my perspective, we lost that Ohio State game, and I already wrote the whole thing off. I was like, well, we blew it again. That's it. We're done. So, a blowout result would disappoint me, but, God, the agony of a close loss in Beaver Stadium would just be unbearable.
It would be tough.
Let me say this too to the national press. One thing I do not want to hear is you cannot bury Penn State twice in the same season. All right? I don't want to hear any, mad dog rants on Monday or Tuesday morning about how James Franklin can't win the big game. You already did that once. Okay? So you can't just, kick us into the already freshly dug grave and start shoveling the dirt on. And then a few weeks later, come back and do the whole thing over again. Now, was it a big win for Michigan against a team that legitimately had the capacity to beat them? Or was it same old James Franklin, no threat, paper tiger, like we got to wait until the last week of the season against Ohio State to find out if these guys are for real? Pick a narrative and stick with it. And you already picked the narrative for Penn State this season. You already kicked us under the bus when we lost to Ohio State. So I don't want to hear any of that can't win the big game stuff again. You can't go to the well twice.
And yet is there any doubt? Any doubt in anybody's mind as to what will happen?
And it is getting a little weird in college football now with how lined up these media rights deals are, where a few networks have the Big Ten and ESPN is all in with the SEC. It's starting to feel more and more like Fox News and MSNBC. Like you tune into ESPN and they have a direct financial stake in tearing down the Big Ten as a conference. And again, no offense to Fox, but I go to a lot of games, so I don't get to watch a lot of these programs.
Yeah.
I've not watched a whole lot of Big Noon. I don't know. They might be tearing into the SEC in the same way. But every time now when I'm watching these playoff rankings come out, and they are just absolutely scathing against Penn State, and they're questioning why Ohio State's number one, and they're pumping up the Michigan cheating scandal. I can't help but think, man, how can these guys not be aware that their paychecks are getting underwritten by the SEC?
Yeah.
I'm not saying, and again, I'm not trying to accuse these guys of unprofessionalism, but you've worked in media your entire life. You're aware of who your sponsors are and who are paying the bills. How could you not be?
Absolutely. Can I just real quickly, since we touched on it, if you are just tuning into to our program, or you're listening just here and there to our lineup with Sports Radio 98.7 The Fox, can I just encourage you, even if you're not a sports fan, or if you have friends that are not sports fans, I am telling you, what Fox Sports Radio is doing is phenomenal radio. Yeah. And there's a couple of reasons. And ESPN has its place, and I'm not necessarily bashing them, but it is what I call formulaic radio. And it's fine. We have a topic. We're going to present these two sides. You battle, and that's good as far as it goes. What Fox Sports Radio does with its lineup, and it's across the board. I've now listened to all of the programs that we have on our station. Two Pros and a Cup of Joe from 6 to 8 a.m. with LeVar Arrington and Brady Quinn and Jonas Knox. Obviously, LeVar Arrington, it feels like you're listening to a local show because he talks Penn State a whole lot. And Brady Quinn.
It actually took me a while to figure out that you guys were not doing an early morning show. Yeah. And then I recognized his voice. I was, this is LeVar. He's just talking about Penn State a lot, which I love.
But the other thing I love about that show, though, it is exactly the opposite of formulaic radio. It is let's talk, see where it goes. Let's have a conversation. Oh, hey, by the way, I remembered this the other day. Man, I had a good cup of coffee this morning. You did? Where'd you get that from? What do you like in your coffee? It is spontaneous, genuine conversation. Now, I understand that I can almost guarantee you they have a rundown sheet. There are some things that they want to hit. Hey,
Right.
we got to talk about the big games coming up on Saturday. But they do that. Everybody obviously has some idea of some things they want to bring up on their shows. But it is the exact opposite of formulaic radio. It is just off the cuff talking. And it's not just that show. That show is phenomenal. I love the perspectives. And one thing that Brady Quinn brought up, and listen, Brady Quinn and LeVar Arrington are both really well connected. They are plugged into what is happening in college football in particular, sports in general. But Brady threw something out this morning, if you were listening, and I've been kind of watching all day and I haven't seen it anywhere else. But he said, listen, next week, don't be surprised. And he's not throwing this out just because he is randomly speculating. So don't be surprised if you hear about college football forming a similar to what the NFL has with its commissioner's office, a kind of rules committee or arbiter. And that is where everything is going to get funneled now with college football, and that they will, make the decisions. There will be a quick appeals process, again, similar to what the NFL has with the commissioner's office. And, Brady threw out there, don't be surprised if you hear about this next week. So, again, he's not throwing that out there without knowing that whether it's next week or within the next couple of weeks, that this is something that is being done. So, you do get some really good tidbits from that program too. And I am going to be looking for that and curious to see exactly how that is set up and what that looks like. I think based on what Brady was saying this morning, I think I'm going to be a big fan of that versus what we have now with the feckless NCAA and, the kind of pressure and politics of the conference commissioners and all of that. So I am going to be looking for that. But the rest of the lineup, Dan Patrick is Dan Patrick. He is just, I don't know how you could not be entertained by the Dan Patrick Show. They just have a great group and kind of same thing. They get it. Sports. You're supposed to have fun. Same thing. It's just an entertaining listen.
That group of guys who were all together at ESPN in the early 90s.
Yep.
I mean, it was just one of those, you look back on a great team lineup.
Yes.
It was just how are all those stars together on one team?
Yep.
Kind of the same thing. Like they have just never replicated the quality of those guys all together. And you can tell because as they have all gone out on their own, although without trying to get too political, just generally, Keith Olbermann seems to kind of lost his mind. He's been fired like 75 times. And I wish he would have just stayed in sports because he was so good together.
He was so good.
They've all, like Rich Eisen and Dan Patrick, all of those who have left the nest and gone somewhere else, they're still thriving 3 decades later. And
Colin Cowherd, I get, isn't everybody's cup of tea. Whether you find it, either way with him. I will say that the one thing, it is a unique take. It is hard to get unique takes in the world of sports. Colin Cowherd, again, some love him, some hate him. I absolutely despise the way he handled the Penn State scandal. I think he was completely clueless. It was frustrating. That being said, I still find him entertaining and I like that he has very unique takes on a lot of the bigger topics out there. And the Odd Couple, which comes on after us. And listen, we're still working. I think we're going to get the Jed Donahue show on here shortly. But I will say the Odd Couple is also just a really fun listen. And same thing. There's unique takes, and it's just a genuine, spontaneous conversation that occurs there. And so that's just a plug for our radio station. I was excited when we started this thing up I'm like, yeah, I think this is a better fit than ESPN for this area.
Yeah.
But I really didn't know exactly what the lineup was and how everything sounded. And it is really, really good radio. Not good sports radio. It is that too, but it's just good radio. And if you are any kind of a fan of radio, I would encourage you to tune in. Well, you just want to listen 24/7. Forget sleeping, forget work, forget doing anything else. You just want to listen to the radio 24/7 is what you want to do. Real quickly, too, Penn State wrestling gets its season underway on Sunday. I just Bill Horlocker, who's like my personal publicist with statecollege.com, did post the column with an interview we did last week anyway. And he presses me for a bold prediction, and I'm like, well, what the heck? We'll have some fun with it. I think if this Penn State team stays healthy, it'll set the all-time scoring record at the NCAA tournament, which is 170 points by the Iowa Hawkeyes. Iowa that year had 8 All-Americans.
Yeah.
All 10 wrestlers in the tournament for Iowa had at least 3 individual bout victories at the tournament. But again, 8 All-Americans set the scoring record, and they had 6 finalists, which is a NCAA record, and 5 champions, which, of course, Penn State has tied twice, but it's only been done 5 times in the history, twice by Iowa, twice by Penn State, and once by Oklahoma State. But, Penn State begins this season with 8 wrestlers ranked in the top 3. That is unprecedented. I haven't completely verified that, but it is. I know that no team has had 8 wrestlers ranked in the top 3 at the start of the season. And one of the weights where they don't have a top 3 guy is 165, where they may have 3 superstars and another really good wrestler. But, I mean, between Mitchell Messenbrink and Alex Facundo, and Facundo obviously had a very good season last year, didn't finish the way he wanted, but Facundo showed through the course of the season that he is a guy that is capable of beating anybody, and he has taken that leap. I mean, he is much better, and he was really good last year. He's much better right now. Obviously, Mitchell Messenbrink is just a freak of nature, the transfer coming in from Cal Baptist. And then, you have Matt Lee, Nick Lee's brother, who was a runner-up in the under-20 tournament. And then Terrell Barraclaw, who's been very tough. So, I mean, you have 2 superstars and 2 really, really good kids there at 165 backing up. And then 125, and I think Facundo starts the season ranked 13th, and Robbie Howard, I think, is either 19th or 20th at 125. So, again, I think 165, you have a bona fide national title contender there, whether it ends up being Facundo or Messenbrink. So I think Penn State has 9 legitimate national title contenders. Not saying they'll have 9 in the finals, not saying obviously that they'll have 9 champions, but just that there are 9 guys that I don't think there's anybody you could match them up with in the country and say, yeah, that one's not one Penn State can win. Now, there's a handful of guys at just about every weight class that certainly could beat Penn State's kids as well. But to have 9 guys that you're like, yeah, they could go toe-to-toe with anybody in the country. And listen, if Robbie Howard stays healthy by the end of the year, I don't know exactly where he will be in the mix, but he'll be in the mix at least for All-America honors. And obviously, if Penn State has anything, if you can get 6 in the finals, 4 champs, and 10 All-Americans, you're going to be in all likelihood setting that scoring record. So the fun starts with the Journeyman Collegiate, which is an individual round-robin tournament format. And that'll be this Sunday starting at 9 a.m. on the Penn State Sports Network at Freedom High School in Bethlehem. So looking forward to getting that season going. Congratulations again to Mike Rhodes and the Nittany Lion basketball team getting off to a good start. Excited to see where that program goes this season and beyond. But this season, I think, could be surprisingly fun for Penn State
beauty of the
basketball.
transfer portal era in college basketball, you can literally turn your entire roster over, which is what he had to do, and be competitive right out of the gate.
And with the 3 recruits that he brought in, again,
Yeah.
I think the momentum and getting a big-time center, I think from California was the
second best commit in Penn State basketball history for next year's class.
And I think he's rated as like the 17th best center in the country, somewhere in the top 20 anyways. He's a really good big-time center. It just feels and it's so funny to me, Booch, because I thought Pat Chambers did a great job getting things going, but it felt to a lesser degree kind of like James Franklin feels these last few years, just that there was maybe kind of a ceiling that was hit. Now, I'm not saying he never would have, if given the chance, never would have been able to break through either, but then you have Micah Shrewsbury come in and all kinds of excitement, rightfully and understandably. And it feels like, man, we're on the cusp of doing great things. Then he leaves and it's like, okay, my God, you just had 2 really good coaches that got this program to good places, better places. Now what do you do? And it just feels like they brought in exactly the right guy because I think Mike Rhodes, like, this is his destination job.
Yeah.
And that is a big part of it for me, Booch, is it feels like there is genuinely stability. I think even if Penn State has, God willing, 5 straight NCAA tournament appearances and Mike Rhodes is getting offers at other big-time programs, it feels like, now, I could be wrong. We'll see what happens. I don't know. But I think he thinks that this is home. And listen, if Penn State's having that type of success, I think Pat Kraft says, all right, we are a big-time basketball program. We'll pay you like a big-time basketball coach.
And to your point, thanks to Pat, Chambers, and Micah, and the new media deal, this is no longer either a dead end or a stepping stone job exclusively, right? Like the trend line, it's slow and painful, but it has been moving upwards. And now, again, there is that big pot of money to pull from and all this media exposure that helps put your program in front of a lot of good recruits. You get the right guy in here, and it's coaching at Penn State is a pretty good gig. And
so I think between the wrestling, the men's basketball, I think women's basketball is, I think taking another step up. I'm still not sure they're quite where fans want them to be or where they were, under Renee Portland. But I think they're getting there. And then I think that this hockey team is fun to watch. Those 2 games with Notre Dame, Booch. I'm just telling you, that is about as good as college hockey gets from a competitive standpoint, from just an entertainment value standpoint, couple of great goaltenders, lots of action. It was just a fun couple of games, and I think this is going to be a really fun season. And, just like basketball, you're in a really tough conference, so you can play well and come up short as often as not. But, man, this is a fun team to watch, and it feels like they're on the cusp of doing something pretty special with Guy Godowski's squad as well. Hoping that we see something special on Saturday in Beaver Stadium, Penn State-Michigan, 12 noon. Goon and I will be here to talk about it on Tuesday. Thank you, dear Booch. Enjoy the weekend. We'll talk to you on Tuesday. Until then, be good and